18 naked Malawan guys in the showers at Midnight's Cairn. Big hard god roll gear wanting to be shared. 18 naked Malawan guys wanting to be spared. Malawan guys in the showers at the Midnight's Cairn. What's up, you mega pussies? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and in today's video we're finally going to be updating Spam Cannon Moze for level 72. If you're not already familiar with this build, it is easily one of the most cracked Moze builds out there and is by far my favorite build I've ever made. It is just the easiest to play, the funnest to play, just all round a great build, and I think you guys are really going to love it. We've made some adjustments to it since you last saw it, so let's get right into them. So I'm not going to cover all 7 of the skill points that we've added to the build, but I will cover 5 of them, and they are in the purple tree, where we've taken the 2 points on the right of the tree and the 3 points below it into Explosive Fury. Now, the 2 points into really big guns isn't all that important, but the 3 points into Explosive Fury is going to be important, as that is going to allow us to get even more dot damage, so that's going to help out with stuff like Skag's Den, and I believe it also boosts cryo damage too, which is really nice, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm going to stop showing the build on the screen in just a second here. If you want to look at it longer, you can always pause the video, but yes, that's going to do it for now. For the gear in the build this time around, you may have noticed that we've dumped the shock and corrosive element criticals and heralds, and there's a good reason for this. I, Epic NG, am a firm believer that Spam Cannon deals so much damage that you do not need shock and corrosive unless the enemy you're going against is resisting stuff like rad, fire, and cryo, which they rarely ever do. So for that reason, I've taken them out of the build to give you guys less stuff to farm, and instead we are now only running the elements radiation and cryo on our criticals and heralds. So we've got them in the build from last time. You know the drill. You use sticky mode and you just spam and you spam and you spam, and then once you fill the enemy with stickies, you reload cancel, and that's going to make a huge explosion which usually kills everything around it. That's something like you saw in the intro with the Kraken. But you may also notice that we're using a different anoint this time around as well. This one is killing an enemy grants 13% weapon damage and reload speed for 25 seconds. This effect stacks. And how many stacks can you go up to with this, you might be asking? You can go up to 10. Meaning you're going to end up with around 130% weapon damage and reload speed. The reason why we made the switch to this anointment is because consecutive hits was recently nerfed in the latest patch to where now it can only reach 100 stacks, meaning you only end up with 100% extra damage. That is way too much upkeep for way too little damage, and this is going to make that a lot easier for you because all you've literally got to do is kill an enemy, and presuming you're not swapping away, you're always going to be maintaining that extra damage. Now, before the elitist police come at me, you do not have to use this anoint. This is completely by choice. This is just what I like for this build, and it does phenomenal. If you want to go ahead and use the new one that has the weird interaction, then you can go and do that because it's going to most likely get patched in the future. I will not be using that crit anoint, so I prefer to use this one instead, but hey, you do you. Now, like last time in the build, we've got the Revolter Shield. You do not have to use the Revolter Shield in this build if you do not want. I actually think an Infernal Wish might be really good with the critical. And the reason why you might not want the Revolter Shield is because it is constantly going to be doing shock damage to you when it's depleted. It's going to make getting that shield back up really hard. And also the enemies are doing way more damage on 72 now as well. So maybe you want a stopgap or a super soldier. It's completely up to you guys. For the grenade, since we no longer need to keep up our consecutive hits, I have got a Merv Hex here. And I know there's going to be people that are saying, well, Epic, you can use the CMT to keep up your life still. But I really don't notice a big difference between the two. If you do notice a difference, by all means, go ahead and grab yourself a CMT. I never notice a difference, and that's why I use the Merv Hex instead. If you are going to run the Hex like me, you most likely want the Mervtacular Hex for even more grenades, but this one does fine for me. Next up is our artifact. Now, I've got the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge slotted in for the maximum amount of damage when I'm running the build, although I also do keep a Snowdrift as well, and this is a Snowdrift Victory Rush, which is pretty damn neat, and this is just to allow me to slide around more. I don't really need it for the Victory Rush, but if you want it, you can take that instead. but I think the Pearl is going to be your best choice damage-wise. Now, for the class mod situation, we are running the Rocketeer with 5 into Skagden and a bunch of God rolled stats because we're filthy little cheating Moze mains here. Now, on V1 of Spam Cannon, I told you guys that you could also run a Blastmaster instead of a Rocketeer, and that if you reload cancelled, that would not reset the damage on the Blastmaster, and that was completely false, so my bad on that. But now, with this build, we're not even going to be using the Blastmaster as an alternative because of the new anointment with the whole reload speed thing. The whole idea of running the anointment on these guns is so that we get that 130% weapon damage, but we also get that 130% reload speed too when we're running out critical, so for that reason, it would be totally pointless to run a Blastmaster alongside this. For that reason, my recommendation for you guys with Spam Cannon V2 is going to be the Flare Comb. This is going to give you some really easy mobbing damage with your Iron Carb, but again, you do not need to run this one. Either you could even run something like a Minesweeper or even a Sapper if that's what you want as well. There is a ton of good comm choices and they all work with this build, which is really nice. Now, for the rest of the gear in the build, we've of course got the Guardian Angel. This means we can just offhand to get easy damage on our rocket kills, so this is just like really foolproof damage. And it might be patched soon as well, but for now it's not, so we've got it in the build because again, we are filthy Moze mains. Like I stated earlier, we got the Unkempt Herald. Some people prefer this to the critical. If you do prefer it, it's in the build. It's not my thing, although it is there for you. We've got a new addition in the ×2 free radical. Now again, it does not matter that it's ×2. I know you're going to be saying, you want ×1 because with ×2 you're going to reload more often, but that does not bother me. I know I'm playing Moze and I should care about reloading, but I really don't because of our anointment here. If you do not want to reload, go ahead and grab a ×1, but the ×2 does a crap ton of damage and will one-shot the majority of mobs in the game. Also, like last time, we've got the Flipper. The Flipper speaks for itself. I'm pretty sure everyone on this planet knows about it by now. A really solid SMG. We got rid of the Shock Corrosive one because I think Shock Fire is more than enough. If you want to get Shock Corrosive, go for it. I just don't think you need it. Coming towards the end of the loadout, we've got the Plaguebearer. This one is in Cryo again with that killing an enemy grants 13% stack anoint. This is really solid. It takes out Hemovorus with ease. And finally in the build, we've got the Quickie. This one is up at level 72 this time, and we've got a different anoint with 150/90. We've got 150/90 because we're only ever really pulling this out for bossing, so it makes no sense to want to stack damage on it. It just doesn't do anything for us. But as you guys can see as we do a quick flip through of the build, nothing has changed too much here. It's pretty much the same build, just amped up to work with level 72. Although the 65 one still absolutely plows through it. Now let's talk a little bit about the decision to remove Shock and Corrosive and instead include Cryo. So friend of the channel Moxie found out very recently with the help of a few other people in the community that this skill right here called Superior Firepower makes it so that when Moze or Ironbear inflicts a status effect on an enemy, they gained increased status effect damage. And what Moxie found out is that this actually has a weird interaction with Cryo, which makes it do a butt-ton more damage. And for that same reason, I am in firm belief that this skill right here, Explosive Fury, will also give extra damage to Cryo. And the reason why I believe this is because after looking in the files at this skill, it uses the exact same status effect damage as Superior Firepower, so in theory they should both do the exact same thing. But that's not just why I picked it. I of course also picked it because it will increase the damage of our Skags Den as well, which is always really nice. So while I definitely think that having Shock and Corrosive in the build is going to work great for you, and again, by all means, if you want to do it, then go ahead, I don't think it's necessary, and for that reason, that's why I decided to put Cryo as the main focus in V2, as opposed to in V1 where we had the other elements. Now, virgins rejoice. I know you've been asking for a Zane build for a while now, and that's why I, EpicNNG, have come bearing good news today, because I am happy to announce that my next build I'll be working on is none other than a flak build. That's right, gamers. Fuck a Zane. All the homies hate Zane. Thank you guys for the support on the videos. I really appreciate it. Don't forget we stream on Twitch at EpicNNG if you want to grow your cock by 4 inches. But yeah, on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.